Number one Ibble Dibble here. Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 5 of Meghan in Vogue. By the way, I have just launched channel memberships. There's nothing to it really, just a few special emojis you can use, including the claw, moon bump, blood diamonds, and chatty banana. As of now, I'm not offering any special videos or advanced viewing of my videos on the available membership, which is priced at $2 per month, because I wanted to keep it an affordable way for fans to support my being able to put out videos faster. I do try to keep my videos high quality and rehash free, but of course, not publishing daily drivel means less remuneration for harder work. I may add additional levels for that later. This membership is really just to support and encourage me to put out more videos. I am offering a bit of creative control. When I'm stumped for new material, I plan on putting up a members only poll to hear which videos you'd like me to make next. Channel members, I truly thank you and I truly appreciate you for keeping me going. Now, let's talk about why Meghan loves Peter Lindbergh so much. She decided to turn his signature soul-gazing portraits into a messy photo pointillist nightmare for her Vogue cover. This article about Peter was not written by Meghan. It was written by Ellie Pithers, a white British woman who started as a contributor pre-Edward Enninful and has retained her job to this day, who on Instagram, in posts that are still up, described working with Meghan as, quote, an epic of Homeric proportions, end quote, and admitted, quote, when Peter Lindbergh and Edward Enninful cooked up a plan to shoot New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern for the September issue cover via video link, I have to admit I was skeptical, end quote. Ha! I think she might drink that sugar-free cola. Backstage Pass, a peek behind the scenes of this month's monumental cover shoot. When it came to photographing the extraordinary cast of women who appear on the cover of this collector's edition of British Vogue, let's pause right there. The public, in hindsight, decides which issues are and aren't collector's editions and determines their relative value after many years. 4 years hence, the popular sentiment is to dislike her rather than to like her. So what will become of her collector's Vogue in 21 more years? Or 46 more years? I thought verbalizing the phrase collector's edition was a marketing tactic mostly used in late night TV commercials in the 80s and 90s to sell porcelain figurines and outrageously overpriced greatest hits albums. Did Ellie Pithers do this on purpose, or did Megzy and Eddie genuinely think it sounded important? There was only one man for the job, Peter Lindbergh. Quote, it was one of those brilliantly spontaneous moments when Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex and I had exactly the same idea at exactly the same time, end quote, says Edward Enninful of The Choice. Peter sees beauty in real people, in real situations. He makes everybody feel their best. I've commented before on how offended I am by Meghan's use of the phrases real people, real life, this is real, and so forth, because she's so dedicated to blurring the lines between reality and folie à deux for poor, mentally ill Harry.
It's my real life. It's not just some story. That's real. And you've created it for what? Because you're bored, or because it sells your papers, or it makes you feel better about your own life? It's real what you're doing.
But the problem goes way beyond Meghan. Lots of famous and infamous people accuse their critics of not considering their feelings as quote-unquote real people, but in doing so only reveal themselves as utterly superficial, as belied by their inability to comprehend that if they present a carefully managed facade to the world, it is only their facade being criticized, not whatever reality remains within or around them. If one becomes deeply offended by the criticism of a facade, how different is that facade from one's authentic self? Really. Many people engage in facade management in and out of showbiz for good and bad reasons. Peter Lindbergh was a fashion photographer primarily engaged in photographing models, celebrities, the rich and famous, and notables in that order. He was obviously entirely unconcerned with whether or not their levels of beauty and status were attainable or not. In fact, he loved using exclusivity as a marketing tool. Of all the beautiful models in the 1990s, how many were supermodels? How many were original supermodels? Peter was a big part of setting those standards, applying those labels. He certainly did not focus on popularizing photographs of anonymous people in unguarded moments. Stop it. If anything, he exploited quote unquote real people as living, breathing, unpaid props in pictures he was getting paid tens, hundreds of thousands for. Speaking of, if real is just code for someone who doesn't make a living off their looks, that's literally everyone in the world, short of perhaps 500,000 international public figures, and that's being generous. It's not hard to find a beautiful grad student or shop girl out there in the wide, wide world. Peter himself didn't marry any models or actresses, but normies still haven't made it into Vogue, have they? It remains the province of the notable. So if real people only includes famous people who are not famous for their looks, what are models and actresses? Surreal, absurdist, unreal, godlike, or the natural opposite of real? Fake, artificial, constructed.
Because sometimes people don't have that in their life, so they want to look at it and they want to see it. I think that women see pictures of us and they wonder why they don't look like that, but what they don't know is we don't even look like that.
Furthermore, a classically beautiful woman remains so, whatever her age. Beauty is a matter of balanced proportions, some of which cannot be manipulated via surgery, exercise, or other interventions. I've said before that no matter how much work Omid Scobie gets and how good the work is, he'll never be truly handsome because he didn't start with a good enough base. Likewise, someone like Kirstie Alley was beautiful young and thin and was beautiful old and fat. She was a beautiful woman. You can't take that away from her. Today, let's stop pretending that not letting legacy media wholly define personal standards of beauty with some sort of moral, intellectual, or artistic achievement, or even anything new.
Ich finde, zurzeit ist alles relativ uniform. Magazine sehen teilweise ähnlich aus. Wir benutzen alle die gleichen Mädchen, die gleichen Fotografen. Wir mögen dieselbe Mode. Also es ist immer alles etwas das Gleiche. Und so ein Mädchen bricht das, indem sie was reinbringt, was das Ganze viel interessanter und ja, menschlich macht. Und dass sie nicht diesen perfekten Körper hat wie diese Mädchen heute, stört gar nicht. Im Gegenteil, das ist eigentlich nur noch ein zusätzlicher Reiz.
Or even anything Peter did.
Also sie steht ja total zu sich als plastisches Gebilde, würde ich mal sagen.
Peter created the supermodels and made a fortune glamorizing them. He's more culpable than other people for shaping Western beauty standards from 1985 until the present day. In other words, the very tall, very thin, very young, mostly white women we see in his picture books and his movies, the ones who represent the very beauty standard everyone's railing against in this forces for change issue.
You know, people always ask me today, has your ideal of beauty, has that changed since the end of 80s, 88, when we did the first picture with this later called supermodels in the white shirts? And it didn't, I have to say. I mean, it's really, I have that same idea and that same vision. The people look a little different, the women look different by themselves today, but I mean, not from my point of shooting them, and nothing has changed.
The German photography titan boasts a long history with British Vogue, but it was his now famous January 1990 cover featuring a gang of supermodels that was the reference for the Forces for Change issue. Of course, supermodels, such powerful sources for meaningful change in the world.
Tatiana Petit is a vegetarian, but it didn't bother her that she would be filmed in the meat market. Tatiana would rather be swimming with dolphins. She told me not to eat a tuna salad because dolphins live in the same waters and end up in the cans. And when a girl in fishnets tells you that, you have to believe it.
Natural was a word that came up repeatedly in cover discussions. Quote, I hate retouching, I hate makeup. I always say, take the makeup off. Lindbergh, 74, confirms.
The real, it's not beauty.
It's a cover.
No, it's a real beauty, because for real beauty, nobody really proved that for real beauty needs makeup or hair. True.
No comment.
Let's go to the coffee.
The number of beautiful women who have asked me to lengthen their legs or move their eyes further apart. He breaks into a laugh. You would not believe. It's a culture of madness. So I'd like to get your opinion on this. As far as Peter goes, his views on beauty are pretty straightforward.
I have a very simple definition for beauty. I mean, the lowest you can get, no? You can have. And that is yourself. It's just about yourself. If you stand to yourself and you be yourself, then you're beautiful. It sounds very, very a little cheap, but it is. I think there's no other definition, except you can go into details again. No? But I mean, if you want to go as basic as possible, as basics, then I think that's a pretty okay one.
So just well-groomed and confident. It's what people want to hear, but it's not true, is it? He usually shoots models. Is it unfair to impose such strict no-help in post rules on women who are not actress/models and haven't spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and the majority of their time maintaining their looks? The images for the ambitious cover shoot were captured in June, over 3 continents in several days. Pulling the portfolio together required gargantuan effort. Coordinating the diaries of 15 of the world's most successful and phenomenally busy women left little margin for missteps. 2 separate shoots took place in studios in New York and London. Quote, "My instructions from the Duchess were clear. I want to see freckles," says Lindbergh, who spoke to her over the phone on the morning of the New York shoot. "Well, that was like running through open doors for me. I love freckles." Well, a face without freckles is a night without stars. Some people think freckles are strange, while I happen to disagree, because if I didn't have my freckles, then I would not truly be me. Between New York and London, there was a special moment in Stockholm outside Sweden's Parliament House, where climate activist Greta Thunberg stages her weekly school strikes. With Thunberg unwilling to compromise on her no-fly policy, Lindbergh traveled to Sweden. She gamely posed for him, holding her handmade sign. "I was expecting someone a little, how can I say, automatic with her answer," says Lindbergh. "But she was so far from this. She was so thoughtful, so warm, and I was determined to get a picture of her smiling. Within 2 minutes, she was laughing." And yes, I believe Peter Lindbergh was extremely talented. Yes, I believe he changed the aesthetic of fashion photography. But I also think this is the real reason he was so very popular for so many decades. For him, everyone is beautiful, everyone is charming. Plus size is the trend, he'll shoot it. People of color is the trend, he'll shoot it. Middle-aged and elderly models is the trend, he'll shoot it. As long as he continues to get big commissions, big contracts, sell those prints for $750,000, sell those books for multi-million-dollar advances, he'll shoot it. He wasn't some sort of vanguard of anti-corporate populism throughout his career simply because he shot supermodels with little makeup in black and white and didn't use Photoshop. Social justice style appraisals of his legacy like this?
I don't know his secret, but I would guess that it does have something to do with standing fiercely in authenticity.
Are ridiculous, laughable. He was simply willing to accept these reinterpretations of his artistic legacy because they got him paid. The 4th shoot, in a first for British Vogue and for Lindbergh, took place via video link. Jacinda Ardern, the esteemed Prime Minister of New Zealand, was captured in Auckland at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning by Lindbergh in his London studio at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. "I was already in love with Jacinda," says the photographer. "She's not a politician who talks about social housing then drives away in a sports car. She was so funny and kind, and I have to say, extremely beautiful." Photographs in the portfolio capture a group with impressive influence. All the women were different, but they each had something special, considers Lindbergh. "Sometimes I worry I'm becoming an old schmuck, but it was wonderful to photograph this project. The feeling is mutual. It's a monumental moment and a real coup to have Peter's images back in the pages of British Vogue," says Edward. "I'm so thrilled and hugely honored that he could capture the true personalities of our 15 forces for change." Ellie Pithers. So, what do you think of Meghan's choice of Peter Lindbergh and her demands of him? Do you believe seeing untouched, albeit heavily surgically and cosmetically altered and professionally lit and photographed faces in fashion magazines genuinely changes beauty standards for the better? Or do you think Meghan was just on a mission to make everyone except her look a little ugly? Or do you think Peter Lindbergh was just one of the few high fashion photographers she was even acquainted with and the only one who was ever nice to her? Oh, and how could I forget? If you ever wanted to know the source of Meghan's dumb, I was the smart one, not the pretty one story that she's told so many times on archetypes.
Again, if you're not the pretty one growing up, you just like, what can I learn? What can I do? I want the A plus.
Were you not the pretty one growing up?
No. Oh God, no.
What?
No. Mm-mm.
That is news to me.
Ugly duckling.
No
Oh,
way.
no. Yeah. No, like tons of, look, maybe not conventional beauty as it now, maybe that would be seen as beautiful, but I had massive frizzy curly hair and a huge gap in my teeth that I was the smart one forever and ever and ever and ever and then just sort of grew up.
On Netflix,
This is like an important part that people don't understand about me. Like I was not the pretty one. My entire identity was wrapped up in being the smart one.
To The Cut, and probably anyone else who would listen, it's plagiarizing both Stephanie Seymour and Cindy Crawford in Peter Lindbergh's 1991 film Models with a little narcissistic twist, where she gets to be both a victim.
The supermodels are the princesses of a modern-day fairy tale, daughters of factory workers and broken homes who've gone straight to the bank. But once upon a time, they were the ugly ducklings, even a goosebump girl like Stephanie Seymour.
I was not pretty when I was younger. My brother and my sisters always say, and to think we used to feel sorry for her. It's funny, because I wore big glasses, and I was gawky, and I tripped all the time, and I would knock things over, and I was just odd. All my proportions were wrong.
Yet superior to everyone else.
It's not that I didn't want to be a model. I mean, it's not like I didn't want to be a model, it's just I never thought about being a model. I thought about being the first woman president or a doctor or, like... So, I mean, straight modeling, I've sort of done that. I mean, I have a show and I do interviews. Interviewing, yeah, that's fun. That's probably the only part of it that I do, that I would continue doing. It's probably perfect that I fell into this because I was ambitious. I wanted to do something. I wanted to make my mark, but I didn't know doing what, so I guess I got my chance.
My theory is that Meghan researched the hell out of Peter Lindbergh when she found out he would be the one photographing her for the Mad About Harry Vanity Fair article that debuted her to the world. And I bet there's no record of her telling this genius ugly duckling origin story before that. Yep, that's it for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Toodles.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.